Welcome to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast with Phil Graham. We help you master Facebook ads and give you an unfair advantage over your competition. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast, episode 309. I'm Phil Graham. Today, I'm going to be teaching you about building credibility and trust that could help lead to sales and success when it comes to your marketing and Facebook ads. I'm going to teach you something that has worked so well for us and helped us really be able to crush it. And it's something that's called the exposure effect. The exposure effect. Here's the thing. There are so many advertisers that are not building trust. They're not demonstrating credibility or giving value. And not doing that for a lot of these advertisers causes them to fail, causes them to lose money. I don't want that to be you. This exposure effect is something that is real. I did not make it up out of thin air. It's based off of science, psychology, and data. And it is so incredible. It is so powerful. It's helped us tremendously. And I can't wait to teach it to you guys. And not only am I going to tell you about what this exposure effect is and why it's so important, but most importantly, how you can leverage it and use it for a better chance of success when it comes to your Facebook ads, your marketing, and your business. So I am super excited you guys are here because this could be a game-changing episode for everyone. So I'm excited that you're here today. By the way, if you guys want to get in touch, maybe you're looking for some one-on-one coaching, so you can learn ads the right way. It's such a great way to learn ads. Or maybe you want somebody to run your ads for you. For either one of those things, just go to my website, philgrahamdigital.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at philgrahamdigital. We can connect, and I would love to hear from you. So I want to jump right in and talk about this amazing exposure effect because it is so powerful, my friends. I'm going to hit you with a little bit of a backstory on it so you know exactly what it is. And then I'm going to teach you the things that I recommend you do to actually put this into play for your business. So first of all, the exposure effect, like I said earlier, is not something that I made up. There was a study done way back in 1968, a long time ago, by somebody named Robert, and I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Robert Zionk. I don't know if that's how you say his name, but I tried. In this study, they found that the mere exposure effect is a psychological term that describes the preference that people have for things that they have been repeatedly exposed to, repeatedly exposed to, even if the exposure is fleeting and doesn't hold the person's full attention. So it's true. People tend to have a more favorable view of things that they've seen and they're familiar with as a result of repeated exposure. That's one of the things that can make ads so powerful. Let me ask you a question. Why are some people famous? Now, I'm not talking about like a movie star who's famous because they created a movie or a sports star that's famous because they excelled in a sport. Think of people that you would consider famous, but maybe somebody that hasn't necessarily excelled in a sport or starred in a movie. Maybe they create YouTube videos, or even look at like the Kardashians early on. Why did they become famous? What were they doing? They didn't really do anything, but they had a TV show they were on consistently. Obviously, they had to be entertaining and everything, but they were consistently on. So whether it's that or it's somebody who's got a YouTube channel who starts doing well because they're consistent, that's the exposure effect in action. That's human nature. So not only was there that study that I talked about from a long time ago, there was also somebody named Anthony Grimes, who is a senior lecturer in marketing at the University of Sheffield. And he wrote his doctoral thesis on the exposure effect, saying that even if advertisements are only noticed briefly, brands still get a lot of value being noticed. And a brief single exposure, like seeing it one time, is enough to get somebody to view your brand favorably, but repeated exposures are much more effective. And so he said that every impression, no matter how fleeting, can help increase favor. And in my words, can also help you guys build credibility and trust. And when you build credibility and trust, great things happen. It gives you so much of a better chance for success. And one last little study I want to talk to you guys about, just so you guys know, this is really baked in science. It really is amazing. Researchers did a test and they had college students in a computer lab read an article online. And they were told that once they were finished, they would be asked about the article. So half the group, half of the students who were reading the article had a random banner ad at the top of the article that was rotating every 5 seconds for some kind of camera. It was like a made-up brand. So it wasn't a brand that they had ever heard of, just for a random camera with a made-up brand. So half of the group every 5 seconds had that ad popping up above the article, wasn't part of the article, but above the article. And then the other half didn't have any ads at all. So at the end of the study, the students were asked to evaluate some of the ads. And the students in the first group who actually had the ad pop up gave that digital camera ad a very high favorable rating, much higher than the students from the group that never saw it. But here's the crazy thing. Most of the students in that first group didn't even remember seeing the camera ad. They were focused on the article. Yet because in their subconscious, they saw the ad popping up, when they saw it again later, they just had a favorable rating because it seemed familiar, even though they didn't remember seeing it. That's how powerful this stuff can be. You can leverage this exposure effect when it comes to your Facebook ads and your business. So let's dive into it. I've got 4 things you can do to leverage this. And let's start with number 1. The first thing that I want you to focus on to leverage this exposure effect is really commit to focusing on the top of the funnel to get as much awareness as possible for the best cost and the lowest cost. So this means don't always be conversion focused at the top of the funnel. It doesn't mean you can't also go for a sale, but really focus on getting your product or service or your brand out there. And I'm not talking about just doing branded ads that aren't going to bring you anything. You can do ads that present you well, that give value, that demonstrate your credibility, and still sell something. But what I want you to do is to focus on the lowest cost awareness at the top of the funnel. And then I'll talk about where to focus on conversions more in a few minutes. But focus on low cost awareness. So for us, that means doing a lot of video ads. It also means doing video views as an objective. We also like doing engagement ads. And then I would recommend you guys test different ad objectives. So video views, traffic, you could obviously do conversions. You could do messages. You can do different types of objectives. But one of my favorites for this specific exposure effect is a video with video views as the objective. But that's not the only way to do it. So test different objectives, mix it up. You can also test different placements. And what I want you to do is look at what it's costing. So test image, test a video, test Instagram, test Facebook, test different placements within those platforms, and identify if certain placements and or creatives are giving you a better cost and giving you more exposure and more views for less money. I also recommend, as part of this top of the funnel, that you use my micro content strategy. So we do a mix of ads. We do broad content ads where we talk about broad things in general as it relates to our product or service. And then we also do very focused micro content where it's specific to just like one angle. And I would recommend you do both of those things. You have multiple ads running with both of those types of strategies going. So at the top of the funnel, your goal is to get as much awareness as possible from your ideal audience at the lowest possible cost. And you want to have this running like a machine 24/7, 365. So that's step one. Step number two, my friends, is something that I call creative switching. So here's the deal. Frequency matters. You cannot show somebody the same thing like 500 times or even 10 times and think it's going to be successful. So this exposure effect, you should think of it as exposure to your brand, your company, your product, or your service, but not exposure to one exact ad over and over and over again. If you do that, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So you want to make sure that you're switching. That's why I call it creative switching creatives consistently, because that can make all the difference in the world. How many times have you seen the exact same ad? Like 10, 15 times. Like you get tired of seeing it. It's annoying. That's not good. That's not the exposure that you want. But if you're constantly refreshing your ads, showing people something a little bit different or a lot different, but staying in front of them, that's going to enhance the exposure effect and use it to your advantage. So you can be switching creatives, you can switch images, videos, you could try carousels, you could play with ad angles, you could do different thumbnails. There's so many ways you can go about it. But in the ads manager on Facebook, make sure you're paying attention for each ad and ad set to the frequency. Because once somebody has seen the exact same ad more than like 4 or 5 times, then you better switch the ad, or else you're just going to start annoying them. And then the frequency is going to hurt you. You want to leverage the exposure effect to work for you, not against you. So make sure you're paying attention to frequency and you're switching your creatives. Don't switch them though until the frequency starts getting up there to at least maybe like 3 or more. The third tip I have for you guys is consistency. None of this stuff is going to be very effective if you're not consistent. You should always be doing this. Just like I said earlier, 24/7, 365. This is not something you should be doing if you're going to turn it on or off based off of like how many sales you got this week or this month or whatever the case may be. You need to be consistent. You need to keep this going. Now, that doesn't mean you do the same thing over and over. It means you, like I said, switch up your creatives, switch up your objectives, but the overall strategy of leveraging the exposure effect should be consistent. You should always have things running. Don't just turn things off for a while and then turn them on later. Keep stuff running and refresh with new creatives, but always have something running. That consistency is huge. You do not want to mess up on consistency, because if you do, you're probably going to fail. You're probably going to be losing money. And last but not least, number 4, I want you guys to focus on the bottom of the funnel retargeting. Now, the bottom of the funnel where you are retargeting, you're getting back in front of people that have already been leveraged with the exposure effect. This is a great time to be more conversion focused, unlike the top of the funnel when we're more exposure focused. So what I like to do for retargeting is a number of different things. I still do some value and exposure focused ads to our retargeting audiences too, but I also run other ads that are more focused on conversions and getting a sale. You can do both of those ads. It's helpful to do something that's similar and familiar to what they've seen at the top of the funnel, but it's still different. It's not exactly the same. You want to breed consistency. Retargeting does that. It helps keep you in front of them as long as you're showing them something a little bit different. And again, mixing it up between direct offers and value. Don't just only do direct offers with retargeting. Yes, do them, but also do some exposure and value and credibility ads to your retargeting audience as well, and some education stuff. And that can be really powerful. And then lastly, on this retargeting stuff, just like everything else, but even more so with retargeting, watch your frequency. Watch your frequency closely, because your retargeting audience is going to be much smaller than your top of the funnel audience. And so frequency is usually going to get up there much quicker. So it's even more important to watch that frequency. And as it creeps up, you want to change your retargeting creatives, just like we talked about earlier, so that we don't annoy people. So if you do these things, that can leverage the exposure effect in your favor and give you an edge over your competition, because so many advertisers aren't doing this. And I want you guys to really try this out because it's worked so well for us. So my friends, thank you so much for listening. Episode 309 is in the books. Got a lot of great stuff coming up for you guys in upcoming episodes. If you do want to get in touch, the website is philgrahamdigital.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at philgrahamdigital. And I will talk to you on next week's episode. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast. Please remember to subscribe and share this with all your friends. For show notes, more tips, and to learn more about Phil, please visit philgrahamdigital.com/podcast.